Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm looking at a 16 bar melody on question 1 in the 2016 Leaving Cert Music composing paper. The melody is in C minor and it's in 3/4 time. What I'm in here right now is a PowerPoint presentation, and if you'd like to own your own copy, you can do so by downloading it via the links in the description box below. So without further delay, let's hop in and have a look at what's going on in this melody. So to begin with, we have the opening phrase here. I'm just going to let you hear a little bit of it and then show you the first few steps that we have. So now the first thing we need to do is analyze the phrase. Time signature is 3/4 time. The key signature has 3 flats, which would lead us to think it was E flat major, but there's a few clues telling us that this is C minor. The first one is bar 1 here. We don't count our anacrusis as bar 1, but this here is bar 1. We can see that the notes C, E flat and G are involved, which would look to us, if we were to assume this was E flat major, it would look like chord 6 is being framed in bar 1. So that's the first clue. The second clue is the idea that there are B naturals here, and in C minor, our 7th degree of the scale would be a raised 7th to make it C harmonic minor. So these B naturals are what's telling us it's in C harmonic minor. This is a little chord bank that you would do then next in our process, so that we have a working knowledge of the framing of chords in this melody. We'll come back to this notion a little bit later. Is there an anacrusis? Yes, there is. 2 quavers here descending are our anacrusis. What an anacrusis means, sometimes called a pickup measure or sometimes called an upbeat. It means that the melody, the phrase starts here and leads into bar 1. We need to have this anacrusis lead into every phrase that we write from here on in. So what's given to you on the exam will be this 4th bar with just 1 minim in it, and it's up to you as a student to include the anacrusis to the next phrase, or the upbeat, and kick off into the next phrase. You will always use the same rhythm that was given to you in the first opening anacrusis, but the notes will be tweaked slightly to suit various needs, and we'll come back to that idea also in a moment. So let's have a closer look now at what's going on in each individual bar. So in bar 1 here, we've got triadic movement. It's chord 1 minor of our harmonic minor key, and there's a dotted rhythm in there as well. Bar 2, we have what looks to be the harmonization of chord 4, could also be chord 2. There's a repeated note idea, A flat, and then we've got a passing note G, and it descends downwards. So in bar 3, on beat 1, we've got chord 5 because of our raised 7th here. So in C minor, chord 5 is G major, and that would have the notes G, B natural and D in it. And of course we need the raised 7th here because of our key signature that has a B flat in it. Chord 1 is for the rest of the bar, beats 2 and 3. As you see there, we got C, passing note D, E flat, and then C. And then triadic and step movement is also at play here. So triadic movement in the G to B natural, and then step movement C, D, E flat, and then triadic movement to finish things out, C, E flat to C. We end on an imperfect cadence here, so ending on 5 is an imperfect cadence, and this really frames our melody nicely. You're going to hear me talking about chords a lot throughout this, but what I always say to my students is, while we're thinking about chords for the spine of our piece and the framing of our piece to make sure that we've got good direction, we are always led by melody. So this analysis of seeing what's happening here melodically in each phrase or in each bar will lead to the choices we make melodically. On all of these slides, the given phrase will be up the top just as a reference point. And now here's a listen to what I composed for what will be an A1 phrase. There are many ways to do this, and this is just one of a multitude of possible solutions. And I've included 2 solutions at the end of this video as well. So here's the breakdown. Bar 5 is simply up an octave from the bar 1. And if we are writing an A1 phrase, what's implied here is that the given phrase is going to be our A phrase, and the A1 phrase is going to be modeled closely on what was given to us. So bar 1 will be similar to bar 5, bar 2 will be similar to bar 6, bar 3 will be similar to bar 7, and bar 4 will be similar to bar 8. And that's what will keep it as having the attributes of an A phrase throughout this melody. having this bar up an octave was a possibility because the melody actually started quite low. Putting the melody up an octave from bar 1 to bar 5 won't always work, but in this case, it just happened to work. And there would have been other solutions that you could have come up with here. Bar 6, you'll see it's a variation on bar 2, again up the octave. So we've got A flat, we had A flat here. Same rhythm is intact, so we've got crotchet, quaver, quaver, crotchet. And instead of doing stepwise movement, I'm doing triadic movement because I don't want to stay up there too long. I want to kind of get the melody down so that there's a nice range in this phrase. Bar 7 then, it's a melodic shape that's similar to bar 3. So I've got triad movement to begin with, and then I've got stepwise movement. And how it works here is I'm thinking of 5-7 for the whole bar to set up a perfect cadence into bar 8. So we go 5-7 to 1 is how I'm thinking. But just again to make the point, I'm being led melodically. I know that I want to frame this as 5-7 to 1, but how I go about doing that is done in a melodic way, a very linear way. So I'm taking the ideas from the opening bar and developing them a little bit so that I have triadic movement followed by stepwise movement, setting up the perfect cadence. G7 to C minor. In bar 8, I arrive in that perfect cadence. The rhythm is identical to bar 4 because this allows the phrase come to a natural settling point, which is what cadence and phrasing is all about in music. And then this G and F here, they belong actually to my B phrase, which is coming up next. So hit pause on the video now and have a go at writing your own A1 phrase in response to this given phrase, and you may refer back to some of the features that I used in my A1 phrase. So moving on to our B phrase now, which is going to be bars 9 to 12. So before getting into the breakdown, here's what it sounds like. So what I'm doing here is a sequence, and I like framing my B phrases with a sequence because it gives me a task-based approach to what I do in bars 9 and 10, and actually the first half of 11, as we'll see. So here's the breakdown. In bar 9, I'm taking a pattern from the given phrase to make it different so that it can stand out as its own distinct B phrase, but I want it to be cohesive in that it belongs to this 16-bar melody as a whole. So I'll explain this keep one chord for full bar for control in a second, but just to explain the red part here in the given phrase, descending stepwise movement, which is going quaver, quaver, crotchet. I'm kind of using that idea here. And then the upward triadic movement from bar 3 of the given phrase, I'm plonking in here. So this is just mixing one or two ideas from the given phrase and putting them into bar 9. Again, this could have been a multitude of options depending on what I was trying to achieve, but this is the pattern I landed on. I also want my bar 9 to be framing just one chord because this will make it easier to control what happens in the sequence as I go on from bar to bar. This here is E flat G, which is 2 notes of my 1 chord. The second half of this bar is E flat D, step passing note to C. And again, this is E flat and C of our chord of 1. The leap here is following a kind of textbook rule in melody writing. That is, if you're leaping, it's good to do it from a chord note to a chord note. And also, if you leap a fourth or greater, a melody tends to want to come back in the opposite direction by step. If you see here, I leap from G, which is the 5th of my chord of 1. E flat is my 3rd of chord 1. And because I've leapt a 6th here, I want to come back down by step in the opposite direction. So leap up, down by step. And that's a fairly common approach to dealing with leaps in melodic writing. Bar 10 is then a direct sequence of bar 1. And what I have is the triad movement upwards and then descending movement downwards. And this whole bar now is framing chord 2 because I've got F and A flat, which is the 3rd and the 5th of our 2 diminished chord. And then I've got F, E flat is descending by step to my D note, which is the root of the chord 2 diminished. In bar 11, I begin the sequence again for the first half of the bar. This satisfies the ear in what it wants to hear. So we've gone E flat here, up a step to F. The ear expects to hear G here, and it also expects to hear this triadic movement. So I've gone G, B natural to satisfy the ear in that. Then I leap up here to a G note, and from here on I'm thinking of how do I land the phrase on a cadence point here in bar 12. So what I've chosen to do is go C minor, F minor to set up an imperfect cadence landing on the G note here. So bar 12 then is looking to be landing on the G note here and via a minim again so that it comes to a resting point in the phrase. The E flat and D here belong to our last phrase, which is going to be an A2 phrase. But before we do that, have a go now at writing your own sequential B phrase. Okay, so lastly, we have our A2 phrase. And before getting into the breakdown, here's a quick listen to what it sounds like. So because this is an A phrase, A2, it's going to be a variation on the given opening. So what we have is the same thing we had in our A1 phrase. Bar 1 is going to look kind of like bar 13. Bar 2 is going to kind of look like bar 14. Bar 3 is kind of going to look like bar 15. And then bar 16 is kind of going to look like bar 4. So in bar 13, we've got the same rhythm as bar 1. Similar triadic movement on chord 1. So C, this time, instead of rising up, I've gone down by a leap and rose back up by a leap, just to vary it. Bar 14 is like bar 2, chord 2 diminished instead of 4 this time, rising instead of falling, just to develop that opening idea a little bit more and to stretch the range of the melody. Bar 15, I'm thinking chord 5 to set up a perfect cadence finish, and what I've got here is a rising melodic minor scale. So I have the melodic minor scale on the screen there for you. So it's C, D, E flat, F, G, and then we raise the 6th to make A natural, because if we look at our key signature, A is not supposed to be flat. And we raise the 7th to keep it B natural. If you're going to use the melodic minor scale, you have to use it this way, rising. So we go from G, A natural, B natural to C. And if you were to use it descending, you have to make them flat again. So we'd have B flat and A flat. My suggestion is that you use this in very sparing ways, and this might be one of the better ways to use it at the end to kind of create a very bright and final finish. So what I've done is I've made sure that the A natural and the B natural are housed within this G to C move. G, A natural, B natural, C. And then bar 16, land on a high tonic for exciting finish. The long note, so phrase comes to a natural stop, again minim. And then the value of the anacrusis rhythm, which was 2 quavers, needs to be subtracted from the overall value of this last bar. So 3/4 minus 2 quavers equals a minim. Mathematically and musically, the 16-bar melody is balanced. Again, here's your opportunity to have your own go at your A2 phrase. You can pause the video here and refer back if you need to. And this is what it looks like all together, and with the phrasing and dynamics. So just to say that this phrase, this first phrase A, the given phrase, I've added in this phrase mark to highlight where this phrase starts and finishes. So it starts where the anacrusis starts, and then it finishes on this minim. Similarly, A1 starts on this quaver movement here and finishes on this minim. The B phrase starts on this set of quavers here and finishes on this minim. And then lastly, the A2 phrase starts on this set of quavers and finishes on this high C minim. Within the melody itself, then I've added slurs and articulation to the ways that a performer might play this. So really here, I want to keep it simple and logical. And then for dynamics, you just ask yourself, how loud would an instrument sound in that particular register? So when a violin, for instance, is down low here, you could possibly play it mezzo piano. And then when it gets higher, you could expand the range. So very simple and logical. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here in any kind of way. Where are the phrases? I've kind of gone through that already. And then scale movement tends to be legato, so slur those passages. So every time there's kind of like stepwise movement, I've just put a little slur in on 2 or 3 notes at a time. And here's what it sounds like in total. So the last 2 things I want to show you are just alternate solutions. There's always a couple ways that you could do these melodies. So what might be a good challenge here is to have a look at this melody here. See if you can analyze the other phrases and see what I've done. A lot of what we've covered in this video already is what's at play here. So it might be a good challenge for you to see if you can analyze this melody. Here's what it sounds like. And then an alternate solution number 2. In this one, I'm setting up an imperfect cadence in bars 7 to 8. Initial one I showed you, we did a perfect cadence here at this point. Alternate solution number 1 had a relative major modulation here, which is not required, but is something that I know some people would like to do. And then here's an imperfect cadence. And again, analyzing my approach in this melody will be a good practice to see what's going on. I've tweaked other bars here and there as well, and the sequence is different and that kind of thing. So here's what it sounds like. So that's it for today's video. If you found something useful here, please do hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell to stay notified of when I upload my next video. The links to download this PowerPoint are in the description box below if you'd like to do that. If you have any questions about what was covered in today's video, pop a comment down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Lots more music content on the way, so hope to see you back here very shortly. This has been David Kennedy, and I'll see you in the next video.